In today's class, we are going to go over these three concepts a little bit more in a little bit more detail. So, if you look at W3 schools, you will see that they spend a decent amount of time in telling you about more data types. So far, the data types that we covered were strings, integers, floats. We did not really cover complex numbers because we rarely use them in practical computing programs. They are used in certain complex logics, for example, when you're working with certain mathematical models that include complex algebra, but normally most of the time, you won't need to use them. We also used in the last class list, tuple, range, but we did not cover dictionary. So today we are going to start with the data type called dictionary. What comes to your mind when you hear the word dictionary?
The lexicon.
Yes, absolutely. What does a dictionary tell us? What's the format of a dictionary? How do we read a dictionary?
Passing words alphabetically, searching for them.
Searching for things, yes. So basically, we all know what a dictionary is. We have certain uh, words and then we have their meanings. We have certain definitions corresponding to certain words. In terms of Python, the words correspond to keys, and whatever their definition is, the explanation corresponds to values. So in Python, dictionaries are a data type that have keys and values. So, what do we mean by keys? Keys are the words in a dictionary, in a human comprehensible format dictionary, in which you have these certain words, and the values are their definitions or the thing they are storing in them, the example that they have for them, the way to pronounce them. Any information related to the key is stored in the value. So let's go ahead and see an example of a dictionary. This is an example of a dictionary. The way we create dictionaries are using curly brackets. On this side, which is the left side, we have the keys, and then separated by a colon, we have the values. So for the key called brand, the value is Ford. For the key called model, the value is Mustang. For the key called year, the value is 1964. So you can think of the left hand side as your words and the right hand side as their definitions, their values, their meaning, their way to pronounce any related information that you need about this particular word, or in terms of Python, key, goes on the right hand side. You can put numbers here, you can put strings here, you can put floats here. Values can have all the data types that Python supports, including another dictionary. So, for example, for the key called brand, I could put another dictionary here as a value. Dictionaries are data types that can have one or more keys, and each key has a corresponding value. The value can be any data type that we have covered so far in Python. Why we use dictionaries? It depends on your logic, it depends on your code, it depends on the type of information you need to store. So we'll go into the details of that later, but for now, the structure of the dictionaries is that this is a certain amount of data encapsulated in curly brackets. You have a curly bracket at the beginning and you have a curly bracket at the end. Each key and value pair is separated by comma from another one. The last one does not need a comma at the end of it because it's the last value. There's no other value after it. You can store as many keys and values in a dictionary as you want. Any questions about dictionaries so far? Let's go ahead and try this in our compiler. We can copy this from W3 schools, go to our compiler, and create a new code block. and then we can just paste it. After that, we also want to see this dictionary, the complete dictionary. So since the complete dictionary is called this dict and the variable names work the same way in Python, we can just put the name of the variable without any specific notation and it will print the entire dictionary for us. So if we just give the name of the dictionary, it will print the entire dictionary. But if we want specific definitions from this dictionary, specific values against specific keys, then we put that key in square brackets here. So I want to check the year from this. I will put my key there. And now when I print it, it will only print the value corresponding to that key. So the difference between tuples, lists, and dictionaries is when we were creating tuples and lists, we could simply just have a sequence of values, a sequence of strings or numbers. We couldn't really have something corresponding to something, you know? If we wanted to do that, we needed to create separate variables for all of them. For example, if I did not want to use dictionary for all these, I needed to create a variable name called brand and store forward in it. Model, store another thing in it. Year, and then store another thing in it. But what if I want to create one more item with the same variable names but different values? I was not able to do it without having different names for those variables. But in using dictionaries, I can do that. We can name that dictionary here that dict, and we can change models here. We can say this is a BMW. What are the BMW models? Can anyone tell me any BMW model?
BMW X6
X6. Okay, let's put X6. And what year do you want it to be? Let's use
2022.
2022. So now I want to check the year for the first car versus the second car. I've printed the first car here. I want to print the same thing again. So what I'm going to do is copy this line, paste it again, but change just the name of dictionary. And I can have all these attributes. So I can print the year of the first car and the year of the second car. Same goes for all the other attributes. So if you have repeated objects in your code with same properties, you can create dictionaries for them. For example, if you're creating certain cars just like this, you can just create multiple dictionaries and their car attributes will remain the same. You will just change the values for each one of them. Make sense? This is one
Sorry,
application. Yes,
Sadia, I cannot see your screen.
you cannot see my screen. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's better.
Sorry, that was my mistake. I forgot to scroll it down for you guys. So, dictionaries, one use of them is that you can have the same keys within the dictionaries and you just change the dictionary name and you can create multiple objects of the same type that way. That's a great utilization of a dictionary when you want to bundle certain properties together and you want to create multiple variables of that particular type. That's a very powerful use case for dictionaries. There are other use cases, you will discover them on your own when you're writing more codes and you need to bundle some things together and reuse them across your variables. But this is a very, very powerful feature that Python has. You can group things together and keep their names, basically keep their keys the same across different dictionaries. Make sense? Do you see the utilization of dictionaries so far? Let's dig deeper into dictionaries. We just saw how to access dictionaries. Can we update them? We just use this particular syntax to print certain values against certain keys. If I want to change this year, How do I do that? Is it possible or is it not possible? Because when we were reading the difference between tuples and lists, the main difference was lists, you can update their values later, but tuples, once they are created, you cannot modify their elements, their values. What about dictionaries? Do you think you can modify the values in dictionaries or do you think you can't?
I think you can.
Absolutely, you can. You, if you want to change the year from 1964 to 1965, you can. Try doing it by guessing the syntax in your dictionary and try to print your updated dictionary on your own. In your compilers, go ahead and change the year from 1964 to 1965 without changing it in your original code, Originally create it as 1964, but then later, without modifying the entire dictionary, try to change only this and then print the updated dictionary. I'll give you a few minutes to try that. Another important thing about dictionaries is that you're not allowed to have duplicate keys in dictionaries. So inside a dictionary, if you try to have year and year again, that's not possible. You will run into an error with that. The keys inside a dictionary have to be unique. Make sense? Also, you can have dictionaries inside other dictionaries. I'm gonna skip some of the easy things that are here. You can just take a look at them in your free time later. We are going to jump into next nested dictionaries now. So, as I was mentioning to you, you can have dictionaries inside a dictionary as the value of a key. So, this is a great example of that. Take a look at it and let me know what do you understand from a dictionary. Okay, without taking a look at it, first tell me what do you think a dictionary within a dictionary is? Or why would we use that?
May I take a guess?
Absolutely. Everybody's free to take a guess. I need participation in this course.
So, for instance, if we have a category in which we have different types of, for example, we have a company BMW and we have three different types of cars or four different types of cars, we can
Mhm.
use it for that sense.
True. You can have as your first level of keys, you can have company names like BMW, Toyota, uh, other companies. And then within them, for each car model, you can have different dictionaries inside the first level of dictionary. So the and this nesting can go on for as long as you want it to go. Right now, we're going to see an example of two levels of dictionary. So here in this dictionary, you see child 1, child 2, and child 3 as your level 1 keys. For each of those keys, you have another dictionary within it, name and year. So for child 1, the key is child and the value is this entire dictionary, the smaller level 2 dictionary, which starts from this curly bracket and ends here, name and year. So this complete dictionary is the value for the key called child 1. Same goes for child 2. For child 2, the value is this, another dictionary. This is what we were talking about when I said you can have dictionaries as values. So how do we access these two levels of dictionary? Try to copy this dictionary, create it in your compiler. So let's go ahead and create this dictionary. And then let's go ahead and print this entire dictionary. That's the entire dictionary. If I want to access the name Tobias from it, how would I do that? Take a guess. Try to do it in your compilers.
by taking two square brackets.
Maybe try it. Try
Okay.
and let me know if it works.
Sadia?
Yes?
Sorry, I missed a little bit because the delivery arrived.
Okay.
Where can I copy it from?
You can go to W3 Schools. I will paste the links to this page in chat.
Thank you.
You can copy it from there and then try to access it.
Yay, there we go.
Perfect. So make sense that this is the way you're accessing specific variables, specific indices, as you might say, inside a dictionary, and you're trying to update it. So to update it, you're just putting an equal sign next to it and writing the new value that you want to store in it. Can we use for loops with dictionaries? If so, how can we use them? Take your guesses. First things first, can we use for loops with dictionaries?
I think yes.
You think correct? So,
And
how? Second question is how?
I was thinking, for instance, here we have three children, and
Yes,
name and year is the common variable, right? So we can use it in for loop.
yes.
But I don't know exactly how to do it. I'm just guessing since name and year is like it's kind of like same for all of them. We can store
Mm-hmm.
one by one
Mm-hmm.
with
Well,
for
right
loop.
now we don't want to store anything. We just want to read this dictionary, but inside a for loop. Instead of reading this entire dictionary on one line, we want to print every value on its own line. So we want to print it in a for loop statement. How would we do that? For example, we want to print the information of child 1 on one line, child 2 on the next line, child 3 on the next line. So how would we do that? We have a certain dictionary right now, right? Which has three keys, child 1, child 2, child 3, right? These three keys, we want to print their values one by one. So in terms of flowchart, if you're thinking, we want to use one print statement and then create a loop around it. So I want to say print information of child and we want to loop over it 1, 2, and 3. How can we do that? Since dictionaries are a data type, we saw last time that over lists, we can simply loop by saying for item in list, and then that item becomes first, second, and third element of the list. I'm asking, can we do the same thing over dictionaries where each key maybe becomes the item in a for loop? Let's create a list first. Let's revise a little bit how we made lists. So let's call it my list and we say child 1, comma, child 2, comma, child 3. Okay, that's my list. And I was able to do for item in my list, I could say print, sorry, print item. And this would give me child 1, child 2, and child 3 in a list in a one by one printed format,
I made it work.
right? So can we do the same thing for dictionaries? And if so, how? Because lists only had values. Dictionaries have keys and values. So if we want to loop over a dictionary, how can we do that?
Would I have to specify the key from the value?
I don't know. You have to take a guess. It can be right, can be wrong. Take any guess. What do you think will happen if instead of my list here, I say my family? What will happen? If
You're gonna
I
print.
here, if I say my family, sorry, I was not supposed to run it anyway. I was just supposed to write it. I won't run it because I want you guys to guess the output. What would be the output?
You're gonna print your child one, two, and three, but without the information.
Absolutely. That's perfect. Go ahead, everybody, and run this. Peekaboo, are you still alive? This reminds me of my university. We had a rule where if you're not participating in class, you get kicked out of the class. But the way the university was measuring it was wrong. They were measuring it only by the number of questions that a student is asking in class and their attendance. So if your attendance in class, if you just come to the class, you're fine, you're participating in class. And if you're asking questions, you're fine, you're participating in class. In this class, we're going to do the opposite. If you're not taking guesses and if you're not
Okay, it's working. I was a
responding,
little late, sorry.
you get the idea, okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
So how do we do it when in the for loop we want to access the name? Do we do it by introducing two variables?
Well, yes,
Like,
absolutely. The first variable would be your high level keys or the level 1 keys, which you have as item. So if you can see my screen here, right now I have item that is printed as a key. If I want to access the value for these items, I will just print the name of the dictionary, my family, and then I can use these keys inside it, right? That's the level 1 accessing. Level
yeah,
1 accessing gives me the full value with these
of the
keys in,
dictionaries. Yeah.
right? If I want to access only the name, I don't want to access the year, then I need another key. So that key is name. So I will put the name here. So
So can't you do it dynamic? For example, introduce another variable like item, like another loop.
yes, we can. We absolutely can.
Uh,
I'm just showing you if you want to access only one of the keys. If you want to access both keys, name and year, you can write another for loop and you can access both of them. So you can
like it would
nest.
be a nested for loop or
Yeah, exactly. You will write another for loop here.
okay, okay,
You will write item 2 for item 2 in, and that item now exists in this
great,
particular
great,
variable.
great. Thank you.
So can we not use just one for loop and use two print, basically two print?
We can. We absolutely can. There are like always multiple ways for printing the same statement, getting the same output. That's why it's important to look at your input, output, your code, the thing you're trying to achieve from multiple perspectives. You can do it with two for loops, you can do it with two print statements, you can do it in a couple of other ways, and you have to, in the end, look what's your objective. Do you want just the output? Do you want your code to be efficient? Do you want to avoid loops in your code? So, depending on your objective, you can choose one way over the other.
So
Okay,
if we
thanks.
have to go with only one loop, actually I was trying it with only one loop, like for I comma j in. Let me share my screen. So over here,
Oh, the IJ thing.
yeah.
This is the more advanced level
Sorry.
of for loop. We will cover it in some further class, not in today's. This will confuse more students. So when we
Okay.
want to do double indexing inside a for loop, we will discuss this in a further class.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? So today's homework is using dictionaries. You will create a game. You will have to Google some stuff on your own for this game. Step one will be, some of you have already done this for the last homework. Step one is you will ask the user how many people are playing. At this point, your program is supposed to get user input from the user. So if the user enters 2, it's a 2-player game. If the user enters 3, it's a 3-player game. Okay, so you can make it, your code has to work for both 2-player game as well as 3-player game. Also, if you want to extend it, if I test it for 5-player game, it should still work for 5-player or 100-player games. The second step is you will get the names from each player. So if it's a 2-player game, your code should say what's the name of the player 1, and user enters the name. Then your code asks what's the name of the player 2, and the user enters the name. If it's a 3-player game, then the code asks again what's the name of player 3. So you get the input for each user, and you store their names inside the first key in your dictionaries. So you will, for each user, you'll create a dictionary, and as their names, you will store their names, of course. You will ask the user a third question. Uh, well, I think I eliminated it. Okay, you don't have to ask the user the third question. I wanted to make it, uh, well, I think I did keep it. So you ask them if they want to participate in only one lottery or two lotteries. So depending on their answer, they will participate in either one lottery or two lotteries. The first lottery gives them anywhere between $1,000 to $10,000. If they want to participate in a second lottery, that gives them anywhere between $5,000. I will specify that here so that you remember. The first lottery is 1,000 to 10,000. The second one is only 500 to 2,000. Or let's even reduce it, 500 to 1,000. So you ask them if they want to participate in only the first lottery or also the second lottery. Then, of course, you generate the lotteries as random numbers in your code 10 times. After 10 rounds, you have to tell me who's the richest person. So keep in mind, some people will participate only in one lottery. Some people will participate in both lotteries. The people who participate in only one can be the richest at the end of the game if the second lottery is only giving them, let's say, 500, versus the first lottery is good enough and it's giving them 9,000, 10,000. So there's a chance that people who participated only in one lottery could win. So in the end, when you give me the results, you will tell me the name of the person who wins, how much money did they have, if they participated in only one lottery or two lotteries. So you will print that information at the end of these runs. Any questions about the homework?
I have a technical question actually.
Technical question. Okay, go ahead. Technical questions or homework related questions, ask me.
I mean, regarding the homework, a
Go
technical
ahead.
question regarding the homework. So if we are saying that if someone buys one lottery or a second lottery, are we assigning anything against it? For example, are they paying something or is just random? Like
Well,
it's always
technically,
better to go for the second one, right? I mean,
no, not always. Well, you have to assign, of course, a negative penalty to it. You have to assign an initial payment. That's up to you to assign. You can make it a standardized payment that to participate in each lottery, they have to pay, let's say, $2,000. Everybody has a total budget of $2,000 in the beginning. Maybe it's up to you to give, reasonable numbers for reasonable comparisons. So you can start with $2,000 initial. For each lottery they want to participate, they have to pay $1,000. And after that, they take their winnings. So for example, if they only participate in first lottery, that means they already have $1,000 saved with them for not participating in the second lottery. So you can choose reasonable numbers as initial amounts as well as the entrance fee into the lottery. The scenario
and
has to be that You have to make it where participating in one or two is not an obvious choice, where both of them have a chance to be richest. First, the ones who participate in one as well as the ones who participate in two. They should both have a chance to be the richest.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, anybody? For today's class, for previous class, for the homework, for anything, any questions that you have, we can take a couple of minutes to answer.
Actually, I missed the starting session where we were discussing the homework. So I think I got it right. Is it
Did
that
you did you make a flowchart for the homework?
I by flowchart? Yes,
Flowchart
I
is
did.
the block where it tells you step 1, step 2, step 3, loops, conditionals. Did you make it on a paper or a tablet or somewhere?
No, I did it in my mind. So
Then
I
you
did it step by
then
step.
you
But
failed the homework. That's what we were
sorry.
discussing at the beginning of the class. The wrong approach to programming, no matter how easy the code is, if you're only doing it in your head, you're doing it wrong. You have to do it on paper in a visually understandable form first. Because for the small codes, you're developing the habit of doing it in your head only, keeping track of the steps and then writing in your code in the compiler. But when you start moving to bigger codes, you still have the same habit of trying to do everything in your head, and that way you're setting yourself up for failure in the long run. So from the beginning, from the small codes, you have to develop the habit of doing it on paper first.
Okay, got it.
For this particular homework, next week we will randomly take a look at some people's flowcharts for it. So make sure you save your flowcharts. If you're doing it on paper, if you're doing it on a tablet, you should have a picture or anything that you can share in class when I ask you to share your flowcharts. If we don't have any questions, that will be all for today. We will close today's session now. I will try to upload the recording as soon as possible. And for the homeworks, you're obviously allowed to collaborate. Use the WhatsApp group as much as you can. If you want to partner with one particular student in class, feel free to do it. That way, you don't have to crowd the chat for others. You can do one-on-one texts to each other. So, for the homework, yes, definitely collaborate with each other to get stuff done. Okay, that will be
Alrighty.
all for today's session. Take
Thank you,
care.
Shraddha.
Have a nice day. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you. Have a nice
Bye.
one. Bye bye.